Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to enter your life at the exact moment you need them? Or why some relationships, no matter how brief, leave a lasting impact? Could it be that there's a deeper reason behind these encounters, one that goes beyond chance? Think about it. Have you ever met someone and instantly felt a sense of connection, as though your paths were meant to cross? Or have you experienced someone coming into your life when you were struggling, only for them to provide the exact guidance or support you needed? How often do we stop and think, why is this person here in my life right now? Take a simple example. Imagine a time when you were at a crossroads, lost, confused, or uncertain about your next step. Then, out of nowhere, someone came along and said something that changed your perspective. Maybe it was just a small piece of advice, or perhaps they simply offered their presence. But in that moment, their appearance in your life felt so significant. Did you ever consider that this wasn't just by accident? Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore profound insights from Buddhist teachings to help us understand life's deeper meanings. If this video is making you think, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Did you know that while there are so many views on this channel, only 0.2% of people actually subscribe? So, why not be part of that 0.2%? Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more wisdom. In this video, we'll dive deep into why people enter our lives and how each person plays a unique role in our journey. It's not all random. There's a reason, and together, we'll uncover it. Whether they're a friend, a teacher, or even someone who challenges us, every encounter has the potential to shape our lives. Let's explore how these connections are not just a part of our everyday existence, but a part of our spiritual growth. The Buddhist perspective on relationships and karma. When we talk about why people enter our lives, it's essential to understand a concept that is central to Buddhist teachings: karma. In Buddhism, karma isn't just about actions or deeds. It's about the energy we create and share with others. Karma is a cause and effect cycle that shapes our present and future. Every action we take, every word we speak, and even our thoughts are like seeds that grow into the experiences we encounter. This concept of karma helps us see why certain people come into our lives. Buddhism teaches that we are all interconnected, not just by the physical world around us, but also by the invisible threads of our actions. These connections between people aren't random. They are influenced by past actions, both this lifetime and previous ones. This may sound complex, but it is simple when we consider how deeply our lives are intertwined with others. It's not just the people we meet now, but also the ripple effects of past interactions. Consider the example of a close friend or a loved one. You may feel that you've known them forever, even if you've only met in this lifetime. Have you ever felt like you were meant to cross paths with someone, as if it was destined? Buddhist wisdom suggests that this sense of familiarity could be the result of karmic connections from past lives. In Buddhism, it's said that relationships are often the result of our karma, both good and bad. People we meet today might have been with us in past lives, and the energy from those interactions might still be affecting us. But what does this mean for our current relationships? How do we know if we are meeting someone because of karma or simply due to chance? The truth is, we can never fully know the workings of karma, but we can observe the patterns in our lives. Every relationship, whether positive or challenging, offers us a chance to learn. Every person that comes into our life serves as a mirror, showing us aspects of ourselves we might not have seen before. In Buddhist thought, people enter our lives to help us evolve spiritually. This is the core of the Buddhist teachings on interdependence, or pratityasamutpana. It suggests that everything in life exists because of something else, that nothing stands alone. People we meet play crucial roles in our journey, whether they bring joy, pain, or wisdom. The key is to understand that these encounters are not random. They are opportunities for personal and spiritual growth. When you meet someone, have you ever felt a deep sense of recognition, as if you've met them before, even if it's your first time seeing them? According to Buddhist philosophy, this could be a sign of karmic ties from previous lives. People we meet may appear to be random, but in reality, they are often part of a long-standing karmic story. Just as we influence others, they influence us, and through our interactions, we evolve. Karma is not about fate in the way that we often imagine. It's not a matter of things being predestined or beyond our control. Instead, it's about understanding how our actions, our intentions, words, and deeds shape the experiences we have. And through those experiences, we meet others who, in turn, shape us. Whether we like it or not, every encounter has a purpose. Some people come into our lives to teach us lessons we've been avoiding, or to show us parts of ourselves that need healing. Others come to help us grow, to challenge us, or to give us the strength we need to face difficulties. The Buddha said that our relationships, whether joyful or painful, provide us with the perfect environment to practice compassion, patience, and wisdom. So, it's not just the positive relationships that are important, but also the ones that test us. These difficult relationships often hold the greatest potential for growth. The Buddhist view of karma also extends to how we interact with others. It's not only about the people who come into our lives, but also how we show up in theirs. Every action we take sends ripples into the world, and those ripples come back to us in ways we might not expect. So, when someone enters your life, whether it's for a brief moment or a lifetime, reflect on how you are contributing to their journey. How are you affecting them? How are they affecting you? Every connection is a two-way street, a shared experience that shapes both individuals. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is that we are all interconnected. No one comes into your life without reason, and you, too, have a purpose in the lives of others. Think about how many lives you've touched simply by being yourself. A smile to a stranger, a helping hand to a friend, or a kind word to a colleague. These small acts can leave a lasting impact, much more than we might realize. Similarly, the people who enter your life leave their mark on you, whether it's through a simple act of kindness or a challenging situation that forces you to grow. The Buddha spoke of right relationships as part of the Eightfold Path. This doesn't mean that every relationship must be perfect or without struggle. Rather, it emphasizes that we approach our relationships with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. We learn to engage with others in a way that benefits both ourselves and them, cultivating love and understanding in the process. In this context, understanding karma and interconnection can change the way we look at relationships. Instead of viewing people as simply passing through our lives, we can begin to see them as essential parts of our spiritual path. The people who come into our lives, whether they stay for a season or a lifetime, offer us opportunities to grow, learn, and evolve. The Buddhist perspective teaches us that relationships are an opportunity to practice the Four Noble Truths. These truths guide us to understand the nature of suffering, the causes of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path that leads to freedom. Through our relationships, we come to understand suffering, not only our own but the suffering of others as well. And in doing so, we find ways to alleviate that suffering, both for ourselves and the people we encounter. In conclusion, when we reflect on the people who come into our lives, we must recognize that there are no coincidences. Every person we meet, whether it's a stranger or a loved one, is there to teach us something. Whether the lesson is one of love, patience, forgiveness, or wisdom, each relationship holds a lesson that contributes to our spiritual journey. Understanding this concept from a Buddhist perspective helps us approach each relationship with mindfulness, compassion, and an open heart. Every encounter is an opportunity for growth, and it is through these relationships that we walk the path toward enlightenment. Soul contracts. Why we meet certain people. In the world around us, we often feel that people come and go from our lives. Some stay for a long time, while others only cross our path for a brief moment. But have you ever wondered why these people come into our lives in the first place? What if there's a deeper, spiritual reason for why we meet certain individuals? According to Buddhist teachings, this is where the concept of soul contracts comes into play. A soul contract is an agreement made before we are born, where our soul decides what experiences it will encounter and who it will meet along the way. It is a plan, not in the way that we think of planning a vacation or a schedule, but rather as a deep spiritual understanding of the lessons we are meant to learn in the people who will help us on our journey. Imagine this. You are born into a family, or you are placed in a certain community, not by mere chance, but because your soul has agreed to meet those people. Each person in your life, whether they are a loved one, a friend, or even someone you've had a difficult relationship with, is part of this contract. They come into your life to help you grow, to teach you lessons that you might not yet understand. These lessons are not always easy, They can be challenging, painful, and full of obstacles. But these people are here for a reason, even if we don't always understand it in the moment. Take, for example, a person who comes into your life and challenges you. Perhaps they are a boss, a colleague, or even a stranger who does something that makes you feel upset or uncomfortable. You may wonder why they are in your life. But what if this person is part of your soul contract? What if they are there to show you something about yourself, something that you need to confront in order to grow? They might challenge your patience, your anger, or your ability to forgive. They might even push you to take action in ways you've never done before. In this way, the challenges they bring are not negative. They are actually opportunities to learn. Similarly, some people come into our lives to offer us love, support, and kindness. These are the people who lift us up when we are feeling down, who encourage us to follow our dreams, and who stand by our side when we face difficulties. These individuals, too, are fulfilling their part of the soul contract. They are helping us grow by showing us the power of love, compassion, and connection. They might be family members, friends, or even strangers who show up at the right moment with exactly what we need. The most important thing to understand about soul contracts is that they are not just about the good people we meet. They also involve the people who bring difficulties, frustrations, and challenges. These people are just as important as the ones who bring joy into our lives. They help us break down old patterns, push us out of our comfort zones, and force us to face parts of ourselves that we might prefer to avoid. Every relationship, every encounter, no matter how brief, has a purpose in our spiritual growth. One of the key lessons that Buddhism teaches is that everything is interconnected. We are all part of a larger web of existence, and each person we meet is somehow connected to our journey. This interconnectedness is not just an abstract idea. It is a reality that shapes our lives in profound ways. The people we encounter are not random. They are here to help us move forward on our path, whether we realize it or not. In Buddhist philosophy, this idea is related to the concept of karma. Karma is the law of cause and effect. What we put out into the world, we receive back in some form. Our soul contracts are a part of this process. The people we meet and the experiences we have are the result of our past actions, both in this life and in previous ones. Every action, every thought, and every word we speak creates a ripple in the universe, which can affect not only our own lives but the lives of others as well. This is why certain people come into our lives. They are part of the ripple effect of our own karma. Think about it this way. Imagine you are a pebble being thrown into a pond. The ripple you create touches the edges of the water, spreading out in all directions. Each person you meet is like a part of that ripple. Some people are brought to you because of your past actions, and some people come into your life because of their own actions. The important thing is that these connections are not by chance. They are part of a greater plan, one that is shaped by karma and the lessons your soul needs to learn. But how do we know when someone is fulfilling their role in our soul contract? How can we tell if a person is meant to teach us something, or if they are just passing through our lives? The answer lies in the energy we feel when we are around them. If someone makes us feel uneasy, frustrated, or challenged, it could be because they are here to help us confront something we've been avoiding. On the other hand, if someone brings us peace, love, and understanding, it could be because they are here to guide us in a positive direction. In some cases, we may not even realize the impact that a person has had on us until much later. Sometimes, the lessons we learn are not immediately clear. But if we take the time to reflect, to meditate, and to look inward, we will begin to see the patterns in our lives. We will begin to understand why certain people came into our lives, and what we were meant to learn from them. This understanding comes with time and patience. It requires us to be present and aware of the people around us, as well as our own reactions to them. When we are mindful of our experiences and the people we meet, we can begin to see the deeper meaning behind our connections. At the same time, it's important to remember that soul contracts are not fixed in stone. Just because someone is in your life now doesn't mean they will be there forever. People come and go, and sometimes, the lessons they have for us are only meant to last for a short time. But even these temporary encounters are valuable. They contribute to our growth, helping us to evolve and become more aware of who we truly are. In the end, the people we meet are not just random strangers. They are part of a much larger plan. They are the teachers, the students, the challenges, in the blessings that help us on our journey towards spiritual growth. By understanding the concept of soul contracts, we can begin to see every relationship, every encounter, as an opportunity for growth, wisdom, and healing. So, the next time someone enters your life, whether they bring joy or challenge, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what is the lesson I am meant to learn from this person? What part of my soul's journey are they here to help me with? When you approach your relationships with this perspective, you will begin to see that no one comes into your life by chance. Everyone is here for a reason, and everyone is playing a part in your spiritual evolution. Lessons and teachers, growing through interactions. In life, people come and go, but some leave a mark that lasts far longer than others. Have you ever noticed how certain people show up in your life right when you need them most? Sometimes they appear as mentors, guides, or even strangers who offer you insights you never thought of before. These encounters are not by chance. There's a deep, spiritual reason behind why people enter your life at specific moments. In Buddhist philosophy, we believe that every person who crosses our path has a role to play in our growth. The teachings we receive from others are not always in the form of direct advice or lessons. Sometimes, the most profound teachings come from the way someone simply lives their life. Maybe you've met someone who seems to radiate calmness, no matter what chaos surrounds them. Their presence alone teaches you the value of inner peace and patience. Or perhaps there's someone who challenges your beliefs, pushing you out of your comfort zone. They don't do it with harsh words, but by simply being themselves, forcing you to confront your assumptions and see the world in a new light. This is a key concept in Buddhism, that all people we encounter are teachers, even if they don't wear the traditional cloak of a guru. They come into our lives to show us something important about ourselves, whether we realize it or not. Some of these lessons may be pleasant and easy to accept. Others, however, may be difficult to understand at first. The people who challenge us the most are often the ones who teach us the most. They might make us feel uncomfortable or upset, but in doing so, they force us to grow. Think of a moment in your life when you were faced with a difficult person or a challenging situation. Perhaps they tested your patience, or maybe they pushed your buttons in a way you didn't think was possible. At the time, it might have felt like something negative, but looking back, can you see the lesson hidden within that experience? Maybe that person showed you a part of yourself that you were ignoring. Perhaps you learned to be more understanding, more compassionate, or more patient because of them. Buddhism teaches us that every interaction, whether it's with a friend, a stranger, or even someone you don't like, has a purpose. The truth is, we don't always recognize the lessons being taught to us in the moment. Often, it's only when we reflect on our experiences that we can see how much we've learned from others. Each encounter serves as an opportunity to grow, to let go of old habits, or to embrace new perspectives. There's a story in Buddhism about the great teacher, Bodhidharma. He once said, "The mind is everything. What you think you become." This simple yet profound statement reminds us that our interactions with others can shape us in ways we might not even realize. The people in our lives can inspire us to be kinder, more mindful, or more open to change. They help us see the world not just through our own eyes, but through theirs as well. But what about those people who seem to only bring negativity into our lives? People who challenge us in ways that feel hurtful, or situations that leave us feeling drained and upset. It's easy to label these experiences as bad, but Buddhism teaches us that there's no such thing as good or bad in a fixed sense. All experiences are temporary, and how we respond to them is what truly matters. These so-called negative people or events are not obstacles. They are opportunities for growth. They offer us the chance to practice compassion, patience, and understanding, skills that are essential for spiritual growth. The Buddha himself encountered many difficulties in his life, including being tempted by Mara, the demon of illusion. But instead of being defeated by Mara, the Buddha used the challenge as an opportunity to deepen his practice and understanding of the world. In the same way, we can choose to view challenging people or situations not as burdens, but as opportunities to cultivate virtues like equanimity and resilience. This concept of seeing everyone as a teacher can be difficult to grasp, especially when we face people who seem to act in ways that hurt us or others. However, the practice of seeing others as teachers is not about blindly accepting everything they do, but rather about finding the wisdom in every encounter. It's about taking a step back, observing the situation, and asking ourselves, what is this person or situation trying to teach me? Sometimes, the lessons are not obvious right away. We may need time and reflection to understand why someone has come into our lives. But if we remain open and receptive, we can find meaning in every interaction. These lessons may not always be easy, but they are necessary for our spiritual journey. The key is to approach every relationship with an open heart and mind. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a person we don't get along with, we must be willing to learn from them. This doesn't mean we need to agree with everything they say or do, but it does mean that we are willing to see the wisdom that can emerge from every encounter. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a practice known as right view, which is the ability to see things as they truly are. It's about perceiving the world without the filters of our biases, judgments, or preconceived notions. When we apply this to our relationships, we begin to see people for who they truly are, not as sources of frustration or irritation, but as teachers who are helping us along our path. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting in a peaceful garden, surrounded by nature. There are birds singing, the breeze is gentle, and the sun is shining warmly. In this serene environment, it's easy to feel calm and centered. But then, imagine a storm suddenly arises. The wind picks up, the sky darkens, and the rain pours down. At first, it might feel unsettling, but after a while, you begin to realize that the storm is part of the cycle of life, just as necessary as the calm. The storm, much like the difficult people in our lives, has something to offer us. It teaches us how to endure, how to stay grounded, and how to find peace amidst chaos. So, the next time you find yourself in a challenging interaction, try to remember that this person is here to teach you something. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from this? It's through these interactions that we are truly transformed, and it's through these teachings that we continue on the path toward enlightenment. In the end, every person who enters our lives, whether for a moment or for a lifetime, has something valuable to offer. They are all teachers, guiding us toward greater wisdom, understanding, and compassion. By embracing this perspective, we can begin to see each encounter as an opportunity to grow and evolve. And in doing so, we move closer to the true meaning of life, a journey of constant learning and transformation, healing connections, compassion, and letting go. In life, we often meet people who leave a mark on us, sometimes without even realizing it. Some relationships bring us joy, while others bring pain. But the truth is, every person who crosses our path, whether in joy or sorrow, has something valuable to offer. Through Buddhist wisdom, we learn that healing connections are not just about the good times. They are also about learning compassion and the art of letting go. Think about a time when you were hurt by someone. It could have been a friend, a family member, even a stranger. Maybe their words, actions, or a lack of understanding caused you pain. Now, take a deep breath. Reflect on that moment. What does it feel like to carry that hurt with you? For many of us, we hold on to the pain because we believe it defines us or the relationship. We let it linger in our hearts, thinking that it's a part of who we are. But in reality, holding on to that hurt only keeps us from healing. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is a part of life, but it is not something we need to hold on to forever. In fact, when we let go of anger, resentment, and grudges, we open ourselves up to healing. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean excusing the other person's actions. It simply means releasing the weight that we carry, the energy we invest in holding on to the past. This is the beginning of healing, and it's a powerful step towards peace. Imagine a glass of water filled to the top. Now, imagine that every bit of resentment, every ounce of anger, and every grudge you hold is a drop of poison you pour into that glass. Over time, the glass fills up, and it becomes too heavy to carry. But what happens when you pour out the poison? What happens when you empty the glass? Suddenly, it becomes light, clear, and free. This is what letting go does for your heart and mind. It lightens your load and allows space for healing. Compassion is the key to letting go. When we develop compassion for others, even those who have hurt us, we begin to understand that they, too, are suffering in their own way. People hurt others when they themselves are in pain or confusion. It's not an excuse, but an understanding that helps us release the hold that pain has over us. By seeing others through the lens of compassion, we can begin to soften our hearts and free ourselves from the negative emotions that bind us. Buddhism also teaches that compassion is not limited to others. It's essential to practice self-compassion. Many of us are our own harshest critics. We carry the weight of our mistakes, our failures, and our shortcomings as if they are permanent marks on our character. But just as we learn to forgive others, we must also learn to forgive ourselves. We must learn to love ourselves, imperfections and all. This is an important part of the healing process. When we can look at ourselves with kindness, we can start to heal the wounds we've caused in our own lives. Sometimes, letting go means accepting that a relationship is over. Not all connections are meant to last forever. People come into our lives for different reasons, and some are only meant to stay for a season. It may be difficult to accept, but when we let go of what is no longer serving us, we make space for new connections to blossom. These new relationships can be more in alignment with who we are becoming, not who we used to be. By holding on to the past, we often block the flow of new energy and opportunities. This doesn't mean we should shut people out of our hearts completely. It's about understanding when to let go of the expectations and attachments that no longer serve us. It's about recognizing that every person in our life has a role, whether their role was to teach us something difficult or to offer us unconditional love. Once we understand their role, we can release the need for them to stay, and instead, thank them for the lessons they've brought us. The practice of letting go is also a practice of mindfulness. When we let go of negative thoughts and emotions, we create room for mindfulness to enter. Mindfulness allows us to see the present moment clearly, without the clouded lens of past hurts or future fears. When we let go of the burden of the past, we can experience life as it is, without the distortion of old stories. This is where true healing begins. Another aspect of healing connections is understanding that forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for you. When you forgive, you free yourself from the emotional chains that keep you tied to the past. Forgiveness is not an act of condoning someone's hurtful actions. Rather, it's an act of self-liberation. It's choosing peace over pain, freedom over resentment. Forgiveness doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, but with each step, we get closer to releasing the hold that pain has on us. Sometimes, we need to forgive over and over again, especially if the hurt runs deep. But with each act of forgiveness, we get lighter, more at peace, and more open to healing. This is where true strength lies. Not in holding on to anger or bitterness, but in letting go of those emotions that keep us stuck. Healing also involves recognizing the impermanence of life. In Buddhism, we understand that everything is temporary. Our emotions, our relationships, our struggles, and our joys. Just as joy does not last forever, neither does pain. When we recognize the impermanence of suffering, we can begin to release it. The more we understand this truth, the more we realize that we don't have to cling to our suffering. It will pass, just as all things do. And when it passes, we are left with the freedom to heal. When you begin to let go of past hurts and embrace compassion, you open yourself to the possibility of new and deeper connections. People enter your life for a reason, and sometimes they enter to help you heal. These connections are opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation. They are not just random encounters, but part of your greater spiritual journey. The healing process is not always easy, but it's necessary for peace and happiness. As you practice compassion and let go of the weight of old wounds, you will find that your heart becomes more open, more light, and more ready to embrace the next chapter of your life. You'll begin to see relationships not as sources of pain, but as opportunities for growth and connection. And in the end, you will realize that everyone who enters your life, no matter the form of the connection, has brought you closer to the person you were meant to become. This is the power of healing connections, learning to let go, to forgive, and to approach life with compassion. And as you do, you will find that peace, understanding, and joy are not far behind. The power of detachment, navigating attachment mindfully. In life, we often find ourselves deeply attached to people, situations, and outcomes. We attach ourselves to ideas about how things should be or how others should behave. This attachment can sometimes cloud our judgment and affect our inner peace. But what if we could navigate life with a sense of detachment? What if we could experience everything with a calm mind, without getting overly attached to the results? Wouldn't that change how we experience relationships, success, failure, and even our own emotions? Detachment, as taught by the Buddha, is not about shutting ourselves off from the world or becoming indifferent to others. It's about understanding that nothing in this life is permanent. People come and go, experiences rise and fall, but the peace we seek comes from within. When we attach ourselves too tightly to something or someone, we create suffering. This is because attachment leads to expectation, and expectations often lead to disappointment. But when we practice detachment, we can appreciate things for what they are without clinging to them. Think about the times when you've been so attached to someone's approval or affection. Maybe you've waited for a friend to call, or for a loved one to acknowledge you in a certain way. When they didn't meet your expectations, you felt hurt, rejected, or confused. This pain comes from attachment to a particular outcome, believing that the way things should be is the only way for you to be happy. Detachment, in its true form, helps us let go of the need for others to behave in a certain way to make us feel good. It's about accepting people as they are, without trying to mold them into what we want them to be. It doesn't mean that we don't care about others, or that we don't love them. In fact, it can deepen our relationships, because it frees us from the expectation that others must act in a certain way for us to feel complete. When we practice detachment, we understand that the love and support we need are already within us. We stop relying on external circumstances to bring us happiness. For example, let's say you're in a friendship or a relationship, and you feel your happiness depends on how that person behaves or how much attention they give you. You might feel that if they don't meet your needs in the way you expect, you'll feel unimportant or unloved. But true detachment is understanding that your happiness doesn't depend on their behavior. It depends on how you choose to respond to the situation. This doesn't mean we don't care or don't invest in relationships. On the contrary, when we let go of attachment, we open ourselves up to truly loving others without strings attached. We can love them fully, without expecting them to be a certain way. And when we do this, we find peace. We no longer give our power away by allowing others to control how we feel. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the main causes of suffering. By holding on to things, we hold on to pain. Whether it's the desire for wealth, status, approval, or even a certain way of being, attachment can prevent us from truly experiencing the present moment. It makes us anxious about the future and regretful of the past. It fills us with fear of loss, because we believe that if we lose something we are attached to, we will be incomplete. But when we learn to detach from these things, we begin to live in harmony with the natural flow of life. Instead of clinging to what we cannot control, we learn to accept things as they are. This doesn't mean we stop striving for better things, or we stop caring about the people in our lives. It means we recognize that life is always changing, and nothing is guaranteed. And because of this, we learn to approach life with a more open heart and mind, knowing that we cannot force things to be the way we want them to be. One of the most powerful ways to practice detachment is through mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us observe our thoughts and emotions without getting entangled in them. When we notice that we are becoming attached to something, whether it's a person, a situation, or an outcome, we can step back and ask ourselves, why am I so attached to this? What will happen if this thing changes or disappears? This question helps us see that attachment is often based on fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, or fear of not having control. In a relationship, for example, you might feel attached to the idea of how things should unfold. You might expect a certain outcome, like marriage or long-term commitment. But when things don't go according to your plan, you might feel disappointed, hurt, or anxious. But if you practice detachment, you will begin to let go of that attachment to a particular outcome. Instead, you will appreciate the relationship for what it is in the present moment, without trying to control what happens next. When we stop attaching ourselves to outcomes, we stop suffering over things we can't control. We allow life to unfold naturally, with all its ups and downs, knowing that each moment is an opportunity for growth. We can embrace what comes, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. The result? We experience less stress, less anxiety, and greater contentment, no matter what happens around us. Detachment doesn't mean we stop caring. On the contrary, when we detach from expectations, we create more space for real connection. We stop focusing on what we want from others, and instead, we focus on appreciating them for who they are. When we detach from the need for a particular outcome, we open ourselves to the possibility of something even better. When we detach, we stop holding on to past hurts. Perhaps someone hurt us, and we've carried that pain for years. That attachment to the past keeps us stuck, unable to move forward. But when we practice detachment, we can let go of the pain and start fresh. We stop letting past experiences dictate our future. Instead, we focus on the present, where we have the power to create a new reality. This practice of detachment is not something that happens overnight. It requires patience and mindfulness. It means learning to let go, bit by bit, until we free ourselves from the chains of attachment that hold us back. And as we do this, we begin to experience life in a more peaceful, grounded way. We stop living in fear of loss, and instead, we start living in the freedom of acceptance. Detachment, in the Buddhist sense, is not about withdrawal from the world. It's about full participation without attachment to the outcome. It's about being fully present in the moment, without clinging to what we think should happen next. When we live with detachment, we open ourselves to life as it is, with all of its unpredictability, beauty, and impermanence. By practicing detachment, we can navigate life with a calm mind and an open heart. We learn to appreciate the people who come into our lives, not because they fulfill our expectations, but because they are part of the journey. We stop seeking validation from others and start finding peace within ourselves. And when we do this, we create a life that is not dependent on what happens outside of us, but on the peace we cultivate inside. So, let go of the attachments that weigh you down. Free yourself from the need for control and outcomes. Live in the present, and trust that everything is unfolding as it should. This is the path to true peace and happiness. A happiness that is not based on external circumstances, but on the peace you find within yourself. Hidden blessings. Finding wisdom in painful relationships. Life is full of people who enter our world, sometimes leaving us feeling confused, hurt, or even betrayed. It's easy to focus on the pain these people cause, to dwell on how unfair it seems, and to wonder why we had to cross paths with them. Yet, if we take a step back and reflect from a deeper perspective, we might start to see something different, a hidden blessing within those challenging relationships. In Buddhism, there is an understanding that nothing happens by chance. Every encounter, even the painful ones, has meaning. We often view difficult people or hurtful situations as obstacles in our path. But, in reality, they are often stepping stones toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. How can pain and suffering bring wisdom? How can these people, who seem to bring nothing but chaos into our lives, actually teach us something valuable? It all starts with perspective. Take a moment to think about your own life. Have you ever been in a relationship that, at the time, seemed to bring nothing but sorrow? Maybe it was a friend, a family member, or even a romantic partner who caused you emotional turmoil. You may have spent countless hours feeling frustrated, angry, or misunderstood. In those moments, it can feel like the world is against you, and it's easy to wish you could erase that person from your life. But here's the truth. These painful experiences are often the very things that offer us the most profound lessons. In the Buddhist teachings, suffering is viewed as a natural part of life. It's not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as a tool for growth. When we look at our suffering not as a punishment but as an opportunity, we begin to understand that difficult relationships are a mirror for us to see what we need to work on within ourselves. For example, imagine someone in your life who constantly challenges you. They may push your buttons, upset you with their words, or make you feel like you're never good enough. At first glance, this person might appear to be nothing more than a source of frustration. But, if you look deeper, you might realize that they are teaching you something important about your own emotions and reactions. Perhaps they are reflecting a part of yourself that you haven't fully accepted. Maybe they show you how easily you become defensive, or how much you rely on others for validation. These people force us to confront the parts of ourselves we would rather ignore. They make us aware of our triggers, our weaknesses, and our deep-seated fears. In a way, they act as spiritual teachers, though not in the way we might expect. We often think of a teacher as someone who shows us the right path or gives us wisdom. But in the Buddhist sense, a true teacher isn't just someone who makes us feel comfortable. Sometimes, a true teacher is someone who challenges us, who forces us to dig deep, to question our assumptions, and to find strength in our own heart. This kind of growth isn't always easy. It requires humility. It requires us to let go of the idea that we are always right or that we are always the victim. It asks us to stop pointing fingers and to look within. When we do this, we start to see the hidden blessings in the painful relationships of our lives. Let's take the example of anger. When we feel angry at someone, it's usually because they've done something that goes against our expectations or our sense of fairness. We get upset because we feel wronged, and we often hold on to that anger, letting it build up inside us. But if we take a Buddhist approach, we start to ask ourselves, why am I so angry? What does this anger tell me about myself? When we dig deep, we might realize that our anger isn't really about the other person. It's about our own expectations. Perhaps we expected them to behave in a certain way, or we thought they should understand us better. This expectation creates suffering. It creates the space for us to feel hurt, upset, and disappointed. But when we let go of these expectations and look at the situation without judgment, we start to see that the real cause of our suffering isn't the other person. It's our attachment to how we think things should be. In this way, painful relationships become opportunities for transformation. They show us where we are attached, where we are stuck, and where we need to heal. These relationships are not just random. They are part of the universe's plan to help us grow. One of the most important lessons Buddhism teaches is the concept of impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. Relationships come and go, emotions rise and fall, and even pain eventually fades. But the wisdom we gain from these experiences can stay with us if we are willing to learn from them. When we view our difficult relationships through the lens of impermanence, we start to see that they are not permanent fixtures in our lives. They are moments in time, opportunities for learning, and like all moments, they will eventually pass. The pain we feel today may not be here tomorrow, but the lessons we learn from these experiences will stay with us forever, shaping who we are and how we interact with the world. Buddhism also teaches the importance of compassion. This doesn't mean that we should ignore our own pain or let people treat us badly. It means that we approach these relationships with a heart of understanding. When we can see others with compassion, even those who have hurt us, we begin to see them as fellow beings on a journey of their own. Just like us, they have their own struggles, their own wounds, and their own lessons to learn. By practicing compassion, we can find peace in the most challenging of relationships. We no longer see these people as enemies or obstacles. Instead, we see them as fellow travelers on the road to enlightenment, each playing their part in our personal growth. The ultimate goal in Buddhism is to reach a state of inner peace and enlightenment. This doesn't mean that we avoid pain or difficult people. It means that we learn to live with them, to understand them, and to use them as tools for our own growth. The more we can let go of our attachment to our expectations, the more we can embrace each person in our life with love, acceptance, and gratitude. So, the next time you find yourself facing a difficult relationship, take a moment to pause and reflect. Instead of seeing that person as a source of frustration, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this relationship help me grow? What hidden blessings are here for me to discover? By shifting our perspective, we can transform pain into wisdom, frustration into compassion, and difficult relationships into stepping stones on our path to enlightenment. And that is one of the greatest blessings we can receive. Unfinished business. Understanding past life bonds. In the vastness of life, we often wonder why certain relationships feel like they've existed before, or why some people, despite being strangers, have an uncanny way of making us feel like we've known them forever. It's as if there's an invisible thread connecting us to them, a connection that goes beyond the present moment. Could it be that some relationships are not just based on this life, but on past lives we've shared together? Buddhism teaches us that our actions and intentions, both good and bad, create karmic imprints. These imprints accumulate over lifetimes, influencing who we meet, what challenges we face, and the nature of the relationships we form. It's possible that the people who come into our lives, especially those we feel inexplicably drawn to or who seem to challenge us, may have been connected to us in some way in a past life. These unfinished bonds don't always resolve in the way we expect them to in the moment. They may come up again and again, until we address them with awareness and understanding. Have you ever encountered someone who triggers a strong reaction within you? Whether it's love, anger, or deep sadness, it's as if you're not just responding to them in the present, but to a lifetime of shared experiences. These people are not in your life by accident. They may be playing the role of a mirror, reflecting back the unresolved emotions or unfinished lessons from a past life. There's an old Buddhist saying, "What you've done in the past will appear in your present." This means that our past actions, thoughts, and relationships shape our current experiences. If we haven't fully learned from them, if we haven't healed the wounds or forgiven the wrongs, those connections may reappear in our lives to offer us another chance for resolution. In Buddhism, there's a strong emphasis on samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This cycle is not just about physical life and death, but about the constant rebirth of our emotional patterns, our attachments, and our unresolved karmic connections. People we meet in this life could be reflections of past connections that need healing. Maybe in a past life, we hurt them, or maybe they hurt us. But now, in this life, the universe has given us another opportunity to resolve that unfinished business. These relationships can be challenging, no doubt. They can stir up old feelings, reignite past traumas, or cause us to repeat patterns we thought we had moved past. However, they also hold immense potential for growth. When we recognize these bonds as part of our spiritual journey, we can approach them with a sense of curiosity and compassion. We are not just facing a difficult person or situation. We are facing an opportunity to heal a piece of our soul that has been waiting for resolution. Imagine this. You meet someone who, on the surface, seems to be a mirror of a past relationship. Maybe they remind you of an old friend or family member, someone you once loved deeply, or someone who wronged you. The emotions they stir in you seem out of proportion to the situation. It's as if there's more at play than just this moment. This is where we can begin to recognize the influence of past life connections. The unresolved issues from the past are still alive within us, and they've come to the surface in this current relationship. This doesn't mean that every difficult person in your life is tied to a past life, but it's worth considering that some of the most intense relationships we experience are not just based on our current actions, but on a deeper, spiritual level. These connections may be reminding us of something we need to heal, forgive, or learn. Perhaps it's a lesson in letting go, or a challenge to show compassion where we've failed before. Buddhism teaches us that to truly move forward, we must release our attachments to the past. When we hold on to grudges, regrets, or unhealed wounds, we carry the weight of those unfinished relationships into our present and even our future. The people who come into our lives, especially those who stir up strong reactions within us, offer us a chance to resolve these old karmic ties. But how do we know if someone is truly connected to us from a past life? The answer lies in our reactions. If we feel inexplicably drawn to someone, or if we feel a strong emotional pull towards them, it's worth asking, why do I feel this way? Is it because of something they did in this life? Or is there something deeper? Something from a previous lifetime that still needs healing? Our feelings, both positive and negative, are clues that help us understand the nature of the bond. This doesn't mean that every difficult person in your life is there to teach you a lesson from a past life, but it's important to remember that relationships often reflect our inner state. If there's unresolved karma between you and another person, it will show up in your life, even if it's in a different form than you expect. For example, a person you meet today might remind you of someone from your past, and through them, you might be asked to heal a wound you never realized was still open. These relationships are not punishment. They are opportunities to grow. Let's consider a different perspective. What if the difficult people in your life are not here to harm you, but to help you break free from the past? Sometimes we hold on to past grievances, and we allow them to shape our present relationships. When someone enters our life and stirs up those unresolved feelings, it's as if the universe is giving us a chance to finally let go. Perhaps this is the final lesson in forgiving, in moving on, in releasing the past so we can create a healthier future. One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness. When we approach our relationships with mindfulness, we become aware of the deeper layers of connection. We start to see that people are not just who they appear to be on the surface, they are reflections of our inner world. Through mindfulness, we begin to understand that the relationships we have today might be carrying the echoes of past lives, and they offer us the opportunity to heal. Of course, healing takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But as we begin to recognize these unfinished business bonds, we can approach them with a sense of peace, knowing that every encounter, every relationship, is an opportunity for us to release the past and embrace a more peaceful, present future. So, when you meet someone who challenges you or triggers an intense reaction, take a step back. Instead of reacting in anger or frustration, try to ask yourself, what is this person teaching me? What part of myself am I being asked to heal? If we can approach each relationship with this mindset, we'll begin to see that the people who enter our lives, whether for a moment or for a lifetime, are not accidents. They are opportunities to heal, to grow, and to resolve the unfinished business of our past. Final reflections. Gratitude for life's connections. As we come to the end of our journey together, it's important to pause and reflect. We've spoken about how people enter our lives for a reason, how each person we meet brings something important, whether a lesson, a challenge, or a gift. But now, in this final part, let us turn our attention inward and offer gratitude for all those who have crossed our path. Gratitude is a powerful practice in Buddhism. It teaches us to acknowledge the goodness in our lives, even in the most difficult moments. When we look at the people who have been a part of our story, we realize that each one has shaped us in some way. Even if we didn't understand their role at the time, their presence in our lives was not by chance. They came to teach us something. We may have met someone who showed us kindness when we were struggling, or perhaps we encountered someone who triggered deep emotions, causing us to reflect on who we are and what we need to change. Every person who enters your life leaves a mark, whether it's small or large. And that mark is part of your growth. There is a Buddhist teaching that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. This is not just about formal teachers or gurus. It's about life itself. Every person we meet is a potential teacher, even if they don't know it. We are all students in the school of life, and every connection we make is part of the lessons we are meant to learn. Sometimes, we may not see the lesson right away. We may be caught up in our emotions or in the moment, unable to understand why a particular person is in our life. But over time, as we reflect, we begin to see the wisdom behind the encounter, whether they brought joy or pain, love or conflict. Each person has a unique role in helping us grow, helping us wake up to our true selves. This is why gratitude is so important. It allows us to see beyond the surface, to recognize the deeper purpose of every person we meet. When we practice gratitude, we are not just thankful for the good things that happen, but also for the challenges, the struggles, and the people who have tested us. These experiences are all part of our journey. They push us to evolve, to change, and to become more compassionate, more understanding, and more aware. But let us not forget one of the most profound lessons of all. We are not separate from the people who come into our lives. We are all interconnected, part of a larger web of existence. In Buddhism, there is the concept of interdependence, or pratityasamutpada, which teaches us that everything is connected. The people who enter your life are not isolated from you. They are part of your story, just as you are part of theirs. Your actions, your words, your presence all have an impact on others, just as theirs do on you. This interconnection reminds us that no encounter is ever truly random. Each person is a reflection of the world around us, and we, in turn, reflect them. We are mirrors to each other, helping one another see deeper truths about ourselves and the world. Even when we part ways with someone, the connection remains. It is like a ripple in the water, moving outward, touching everything around it. And that ripple continues, long after the encounter has passed. So, what does it mean to truly embrace gratitude for the people in our lives? It means recognizing that each person we meet is a teacher, a mirror, and a guide. Whether their presence in our life is brief or long-lasting, whether they bring us joy or discomfort, they are all part of our awakening. The relationships we form, whether deep friendships, passing acquaintances, or even conflicts, are all opportunities to learn, grow, and evolve. Every person who enters your life has a purpose. They are there to help you become the person you are meant to be. In Buddhist philosophy, we are often reminded of the impermanence of life. Everything changes, and nothing lasts forever. This includes the people we meet. Some may stay with us for a short time, while others may walk beside us for many years. But all of them, in their own way, have something to teach us. And when someone leaves, when a relationship fades away, we must learn to let go with gratitude. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or dismissing the importance of that person. It means accepting the lesson they brought, appreciating the time you shared, and allowing them to continue their journey while you continue yours. This is a powerful part of spiritual growth, to release attachment, to trust that each encounter is temporary and part of a larger process. So, take a moment now and reflect on the people in your life, past and present. Who has taught you the most? Who has challenged you to grow, to become more compassionate, to see the world in a new way? Who has made you laugh, made you cry, made you question your beliefs? And who has helped you discover who you truly are? These people, whether they are still in your life or have moved on, are part of your journey. As we close this video, remember that every person you meet is a gift. They have come into your life for a reason, to help you grow, to teach you, and to guide you. Each connection, whether joyful or painful, is part of the greater process of your awakening. So, embrace these connections with gratitude, for they are not just random encounters. They are the teachers, the lessons, and the blessings that shape who you are meant to be. If you found wisdom in these words, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. We are grateful for your presence here, and we hope these teachings have touched your heart. Remember, every encounter, every person, and every lesson is part of your path. Keep walking, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you for being a part of this journey.